Of the 35 mass shooters, they diagnosed 32 with at least one psychiatric disorder, 18 with schizoaffective disorder, schizophrenia. Other diagnoses included bipolar 1, delusional disorder, personality disorder, which I'm going to make a separate video just on personality disorders. Those are disorders you can acquire. Substance abuse disorder and PTSD. 32 out of 35 shooters, they diagnosed with at least one mental health disorder. I wonder if there is less talk about schizoaffective disorder, bipolar, personality disorder, PTSD, etc., in relation to mass shooters, maybe a fear of stigmatizing people who suffer from those disorders. No one credible is saying that if you have schizoaffective disorder, you're going to be a mass shooter. When I see an article like this, I say to myself, there is a huge psychiatric component, undiagnosed component to mass shooters, because we put a lot of the responsibility on the parents, as we should. This doesn't take away from the gun debate. This doesn't take away from the fact that no child should have easy access to their parents' firearms. But it does introduce this element that we are really failing in psychiatric medicine. And not just psychiatric medicine, these children were Americans. Every child, every adolescent sees their pediatrician at least once or twice a year. And though, to be fair, something like schizoaffective disorder and things like that don't really appear until late teens. In fact, I think 17 is the magic number. There are signs and symptoms, nevertheless. But are they presenting when they're in front of their pediatrician? That's the question. For example, antisocial disorder, when you're under 18, it's called conduct disorder. And conduct disorder is characterized by deceitfulness, theft, aggressive behavior toward others, and it overlaps with ADHD, autism spectrum disorder, depression, anxiety. We know misdiagnosis is a huge reason for dead Americans. That's just a fact. I wonder how many adolescents, children, etc., are diagnosed with ADHD, or the pediatrician or whomever is focusing on depression or autism. And the real culprit, the real focus should be conduct disorder. And this person eventually becomes an adult or a late teen, and that risk of extreme rage becomes a real thing. And there's probably other things overlapping. They could also have ADHD, could also be depressed, could also have anxiety. I'm not taking away from that, but it makes me wonder, should children and adolescents go through a mandatory psychiatric evaluation annually? And it's not just to pick up on a mental health disorder. It's also to just check in on their overall mental health, because we live in very trying times. I often go back to the poem The Hollow Men, or Humphrey Bogart's first movie called The Petrified Forest, which is based on a play, or anything that Nietzsche has ever written about how, as humanity becomes more dependent on technology, we're going to become more, and I'm borrowing an old term, neurotic.